Oh,
The MC.
the drop.
The drop. We're doing it. We're dropping it. Casual Supremacy, Dykeman Podcast.
Live from the MC.
We are back. Thank you so much for everyone who enjoys the show and keeps coming back, leaving us comments, even the rude ones. We don't care. You could bring all the smoke. We don't care. Go ahead. Leave us your give us your dirt. Give us a smoke. We're here. Live is ready for your smoke. We're all ready for it. And
That was a wild take.
things are wild takes right now. But you know what, man? These are wild times. And if you're looking around right now, man, we've been talking about war. Like, go back to how many of our episodes that we've been talking about, that
It's happening.
it is happening. Since I was a kid, I remember everyone talking about like peace in the Middle East, rain in Spain. It was like a little thing, and we are never gonna have peace.
Far from that.
It's never happening, at least not in our lifetimes. Like I thought it might happen because, listen, I know you're a Trump guy, his whole thing was, I'm going to stop all these wars. Ukraine, I'm going to shut this down in a day. Middle East, I'm going to talk, peace treaties. But all that stuff is now.
Russia, I'm talking to Putin the next day. We're going to resolve this.
Shut all of this down. Gaza, give me 3 hours. I'm like, fucking Biden's, I don't know. But all I'm saying is that all of that stuff has turned out to be absolutely false. This week, obviously, the big news, Iran and Israel, the back and forth, they're shooting missiles, they're shooting drones. We're going to talk about the drones some more later on. Well, they're firing at each other, and, Israel prided itself because it had this thing called the Iron Dome, which is this kind of the system that, like would protect it from all these ballistic missiles. But it is like it's been failing. It failed. Today I saw a video on X that was like they tried to do an intercept and it came right back into Israel. And and so it's hard because there's a lot of like you see some of these videos and you don't know what's what because I've been following. I'm constantly kind of an extreme or whatever it is, just kind of trying to keep up with the news because it's so wild. But our president is definitely not helping. He basically asked, I think on his Truth Social today, he said he wants an unconditional surrender of Iran, which is okay. That's a good tactic, I guess, but it's not probably going to happen. And so it's just one of those things where we're just getting into this tipping point, where everyone for years, since like 95, I'm old, and since like 95, they talked about that Iran was going to have the nuclear bomb, that they were enriching uranium. We had a deal with them, that we broke, then we ended the deal with them, then we were going to do a new deal with them. But before we were about to do the new deal, Israel bombed and they killed a bunch of like their head of scientists and a bunch of their leaders. Some say that actually that Trump kind of set it up where he basically said, hey, we're going to have these talks, but they're next week. And before the talks, Israel landed. And then obviously the retaliation, start firing these supersonic missiles. They're flying now. We're in this drone warfare life where you have these cheap little drones. They can be flown by AI. They can be pre-programmed. And so, they're like one person or one view, what they in Ukraine, they had this Operation Spiderweb, which again, we're going to talk a little bit more about, but right now we're talking about Iran, but it's the same idea. They're using these cheap little drones and basically like kamikazing. They're pre-packed with explosives. They cost a couple $100, but they're costing like billions in damage. Like if we go back to Spiderweb, that changed everything. And I don't remember when that happened. I think it was early June that they had Operation Spiderweb in Ukraine, where basically they loaded up trucks. And they paid like Russian guys. And listen, Russia's so big that it's over like 5 different time zones. And they sent trucks with, you didn't know what they were, and inside them they had these compartments with all these drones. And they basically parked the trucks next to these airfields. I mean, Russia's at war, like no security. I mean, I don't know about no security, but it's a big place, obviously. And they opened up one day and they blew up billions of dollars worth of equipment with like hundreds of dollars, which is what we're going to be facing, in the future is you're not going to know if, the drone you see is like your Amazon package or a bomb about to, slam into you. Seriously, they're going to be using it for everything. Like Amazon's about to do that. They want to drone drop packages. So imagine you don't even know what this thing is. You don't know what this thing is carrying. And it costs like nothing. to load that thing up with explosives and just basically crash it into you. Like it's just like a kamikaze AI, no feelings, no nothing. And people haven't really talked about it, but like, we don't need now like the subs. Like it's completely reshaped warfare. And for the rest of our lives, we have to worry about it. And it's like no easy way of taking those things down. They're trying to shoot them down, in Israel, they're trying to shoot them down before they get to to get to Israel to land from Iran. But like this is something that's been like fully developed. And I'm not saying you should be scared, but you should definitely be
concerned.
Alert. Yeah, that things like this are happening. And again, our president was supposed to be the president who said the biggest thing with him was we're going to end these wars. And that's the only thing I'll say. I think Tulsi Gabbard, his head of Homeland Security, basically said to him, if you drag us into a war with Iran, I'm retiring, or I'm going to step down. And listen, again, we spent, we talked about this a little bit, 9/11, since 9/11, we've been in the Middle East. We spent $12 trillion fighting wars in the Middle East, from Iraq, Afghanistan. We left them $1 billion. We took the Taliban, and then they just came right back. And we're like, oh, hey, thanks for all the equipment, and we see what's going on. But it's like, are we going to, imagine what we could have done with that money. China talks about it all the time.
Yeah.
They talk about how much money that we've spent. And we take that money and we just basically give it to like U.S. defense contractors, Lockheed Martin, Northrop, basically that is the same thing. We just keep propelling because that's what we make. We make the toolies. So of course,
that's what we're going to go for.
Exactly. So every time something pops off, we're the first ones like, oh, what? You need bullets?
What?
You need bullets? What do you need? What do you need?
What do you need? What do you need?
We'll make it for you. We'll send it to you. Oh, yeah, we'll blow them up. We'll see what's going on. Because that's what we do. That's our, but that's only for like a certain amount of people.
That's our avocados.
That's our avocados. And listen, if you're like 18, 19, you're young right now, man, I'm just saying, man, Iran is no Iraq. Take a look at Iran and look at the size of it. Look at that is not going to be us just walking in there and liberating in 3 days. That's going to be something where, but us, we're going to bomb the hell out of it. We're going to go to Israel. We're going to pop.
Okay, we're not got him.
Yeah, we're just going to it's just going to be like
Little Caesars. Got them hot and ready.
Bombs over Tehran, whatever it is. It's
Barack Obama special.
The drones, man. Barack is the drone master.
The drone god. Don't forget.
He was the killer. He
started that wave.
He was he just perfected it. He was a guy who was like, hey, you know what? I could just kill people, but I don't have to send any of my own people in. And it's like a video game.
Turn on the PS5. We're going in. We're going in.
Straight in.
Live from the MC.